So, Garrett,
Yes.
have you given any thought to what animal you would like to be turned into?
I want to be a goose so I can shit all over people.
I'd like to be turned into a peregrine falcon. You know why?
Why's that?
Because they're the fastest non-land animal. So I can fly the fuck away from this podcast.
Wow. But if you're an animal, you'd have
Wow.
no knowledge. I'm Owen Wilson. Yeah, which is interesting because in this movie is Owen Wilson's girlfriend from Midnight Paris.
Wow.
Like I didn't know that. That's so like just wow.
I feel like Owen Wilson would get turned into like...
Owen Woodson?
What would Owen Wilson get turned into?
A plank?
Of just wood? Of a wood? It's a wood block?
Yeah, because that's his acting ability. He'd probably be about... He just put a wig on it and nobody would be able to tell the difference.
Wow.
And Matthew McConaughey could be a piece of leather.
Oh, yeah, because he's nice and smooth.
Except for that very new movie he's in where he looks terrible. It's Movie Talk with Garrett. Garrett, what do you think sucks today? Well, everything.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining us on another episode of the Digital Drive-In Podcast, where we talk about some of our favorite movies, the ones that we love and what we love about them and what makes them so great. My name is Alex, and I am...
Are we on NPR?
As always, by my idiot co-host, Garrett.
Hey!
And I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Alex, you said villains was next week. You said you was gonna do your favorites villains next week. Well, I lied, bitch. Turns out Garrett wasn't prepared for that podcast.
Wow.
Under the bus.
Beep, beep. Wheels on the bus go round and round.
But curiously, and, you know, we didn't plan it or anything, we both watched a different film today not at the same time, but on the same day. And since Garrett wasn't prepared, we decided to change it up and do that film instead, because it is by one of our favorite current modern directors, Yorgos Lanthimos, who you will know from films such as The Killing of a Sacred Deer, or maybe his Greek film Dogtooth, or the one that just got nominated for Best Picture, The Favorite. But of course, Garrett, which Yorgos Lanthimos film are we talking about today?
The Lobster. The Lobster.
Yes, this is Rock Lobster.
From 2015, the B-52s. That's close.
That was the Family Guy version, the first one.
Uh-huh.
We were at a beach.
Ooh,
Everybody had matching towels. Somebody went under the dock. There they saw a rock. But it wasn't a rock.
Yeah, it wasn't a rock.
It was a rock lobster. That's getting cut out. But Garrett, what exactly is this weird and bizarre comedy about?
It's about partnerships and romance and what it takes to find someone. It's unconventional.
What about quite literally, what is it about?
Oh, it's about single people having to go from the city to the hotel, and they have like 45 days, I think it is, to either find a partner or they get transformed into whatever animal they choose and live out their days that way.
Yeah.
You know, that old chestnut.
Yeah, the timeless Hollywood tale. It's been done so many times before.
I'm just sick
they
of this
really
story.
have no originality in Hollywood anymore. Whatsoever.
Technically, this isn't Hollywood.
No, but the Lobster, like we said at the top, is by Yorgos Lanthimos, who, like I said, Killing of a Sacred Deer, one of our favorite directors right now. What was your first experience, I guess, with his films? What was the first one that you watched?
Sacred Deer was the first one.
Oh, right. We did do a podcast on that at one point somewhere.
You literally have been there at every point of the movies I've seen of his. I will have to say, in general terms, I was aware of Dogtooth, but I just never got around to seeing it.
And you still haven't.
And I still haven't. But what's interesting, and I mentioned this to you, air quotes off air, is typically I will see, like, I mean, this isn't every case, but just in a typical sense, I will see like an up and coming director or a director without a whole lot of films under their belt, and I'll like watch like their best one or their most popular one, and then like it will kind of go downhill from there, and it's like their stuff will never be as good as the first thing that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like Sacred Deer might be I mean, I still really like it, but it might be my least favorite of the 3 movies I've seen of it.
Right. Yeah. I would agree with you. Well, I like
You've only seen
Sacred Deer
2.
more than Dogtooth, but
Oh, okay, you have seen Dogtooth.
I have seen Dogtooth. I did that for one of my foray.
No, I don't remember.
Yeah, you didn't read those.
I know. Yeah, I think I literally did not read ones that I have not seen, so I didn't get anything
That's
spoiled.
true. That's true. Yeah, but he's obviously a Greek director, Lanthimos, that came over from Greece very recently with this film. Actually, he made a couple over there, including Dogtooth. Lobster was his first English language film, and he's made 3 since then.
Well, didn't he do like a short film before that was English language, or am I thinking of something?
Perhaps,
Like,
but features.
matter.
But Yorgos
Wait, what is my
known...
best friend?
You don't have any. Huh?
Is that English?
I don't know.
Because that's 1 hour and 44 minutes. Sure would be nice to know.
Yeah, we'll fucking look it up then.
That might be Greek. Why doesn't it have like...
My Best Friend is a Greek film.
Why doesn't it have... Okay, language, Greek, English. Language.
He was also only a co-director on that one. And he made a film in 2005 that has a 4.9 on IMDb.
Well, that doesn't mean anything necessarily.
True. But Dogtooth was his first sort of breakout film. It was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film at the Academy Awards. He went on to make after that a film called Alps, which I have not seen, and then The Lobster, and the rest is history. Yorgos is known very much for his bizarre and strange essence, almost very absurdist and surreal, and of course for his very stilted dialogue in his scripts.
I would say that it oddly like places it almost out of time.
Yep.
Because there's like a lot of films that are dated, or there's even like period pieces, like The Witch, where they have a very specific dialogue. His dialogue for all of his movies that I've seen, like this movie could be in the 60s, or it could be today, or it could be 20 years in the future, and it would still fit, except for maybe like like a few background setting things or whatever. Like you couldn't go like the modern buildings of the mall. It obviously wouldn't be older. But anyway.
Yeah, but
yeah,
all the movies are kind of like that. He doesn't really care about what time it's set in. It's kind of irrelevant to the story.
Exactly.
Until like with The Favorite, it's not. But
right, The Favorite is definitely a period piece.
Yeah, which some people apparently hate.
What you said it like I'm the one that hates it.
Yep.
It's literally my second favorite movie of the year.
You ain't even seen it.
And I can't talk about it because you haven't seen it.
I know. So you gotta watch your goddamn mouth here. Anyway.
Wow.
What do you think overall about him as a director then, so far, from what you've seen?
Oh, I would definitely say he's one of the top modern directors, and I think he's gained my confidence that regardless of what the movie is or who's in it, when it comes out, it's required watching.
Yep, I would agree.
For his new stuff. I don't necessarily have to go back and watch all of his Greek comedies necessarily, even though I probably
just
will
watch
get around
Dogtooth and maybe Alps. That's about all you need to watch.
Yeah. So, but and it's interesting, he's almost going backwards through Kubrick's cinematography, like in a very generalized way. Like The Lobster is almost in the vein of Eyes Wide Shut. He hasn't done a war movie, but then Killing of a Sacred Deer is a horror movie that has
Very
similarities to The
Clockwork Orange
Shining.
and Shining.
And then The Favorite has similarities to Barry Lyndon. So it's
Okay.
like,
He's
yeah,
obviously very inspired by Kubrick,
I would think so.
but
I
in good
mean,
enough ways that it's still his own thing.
that's the thing. I mean, there's a difference between inspired by and ripping off.
Yeah.
And I think it's very much so like he's tuned into the method of cinema that is, there are certain, like if you're going to make a Western movie, you almost can't help but either emulate things that have already been done by John Ford or emulate stuff with Sergio Leone.
Right.
Just because they're like the foundational aspects. It's the same thing with like a character driven story. You almost can't help but do stuff that Orson Welles has already done with Citizen
Right.
Kane.
Or with a slasher, say John Carpenter.
Yeah, I mean, John Carpenter is not necessarily known for
That's
slashers.
true. I was just thinking Halloween and how it kind of jumped it. Maybe a Wes
Right.
Craven then, more Wes Craven and slasher.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you have to basically go back to a little bit before then with like Hitchcock and Michael Powell with
Right.
Psycho and Peeping Tom
Very
kind of
true.
started. But anyway, that's getting off on a completely different side tangent. But it's like he does things in a way that like even though the movies that I've seen have been tonally different and in different genres, he still like makes them his own,
Mm-hmm.
which there's not very many people that have made multiple movies that do it that way.
Right.
I mean, Lynch has a very specific way that he does movies, but he rarely jumps outside of that mystery thriller genre.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and the say like Quentin Tarantino like always has like anti-hero violent, even his Western films are crime films.
Yeah, it's like the same archetypes and characters and dialogues, just lifted and put into different time frames.
Right. Whereas these, it's like I think tonally and genre specific, he changes up the way that he tells the story, but it's still like uniquely him.
Right.
So that's pretty cool that a newer director is doing that.
And I'm glad to see him break out with The Favorite, as much as you can break out in quotation marks or whatever. I think getting some Academy recognition and something like that is going to help him at least a little bit. Get whatever he needs to get for the next stuff, but I mean, he was doing a fine enough job as is.
Yeah, and so like I will be shocked if he wins director because he's one of those directors that like will get nominated a few times but never actually wins because he's an actual great director.
Right, right.
I mean, it would be nice to be proven wrong, but
yeah, chances are it's Alfonso or Spike Lee.
I think they're going to give it to Spike Lee because this is the first time he's even been nominated for director.
Well, Spike Lee gets the director and Alfonso gets the picture. That's not unusual for the Academy.
Right. It wouldn't surprise me if that's exactly what happened.
Last year was the first year in a while they didn't do that, I think.
Yeah, because Del Toro got both?
Yeah.
I still need to see that.
Yeah. The year before, Chazelle won director and Moonlight won picture. The year before that, Iñárritu won director and Spotlight won picture. And then the year before that, it was Iñárritu for both Birdman and director. Still, it's interesting. So regardless, it's cool to kind of see him get massive attention like that. I don't want to say like it feels like we discovered him, but like it's cool on a personal level to see this like, oh, we just watched this one or two weird indie films by this guy. Oh, now he's an Academy Award nominated director. Cool. It's like we followed his career as he shot up.
Right.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
Enough. Like I was aware of The Lobster when it came out. I just didn't see it. We watched Sacred Deer in August.
I still can't believe that Johan cannot win an Oscar this year.
I know.
It's a fucking tragedy.
That movie's not even eligible to be nominated to anything.
I know.
And that's a bullshit rule.
But the thing is, even if it would have got nominated, it would have never won anything, regardless.
He could have won easily.
But yeah, to me, music, that is the one thing.
Okay, and the music nominees are so fucking terrible this year. I'm just saying that because of First Man. But
I know you are. And the thing is, you
there's
know
some
what's
weird
going to
shit in here,
happen.
though.
You know what's going to
Black
happen.
Panther.
No,
What?
you're not even on the same wavelength. I will eventually see First Man. I'll be like, yeah, well, it was about like Interstellar. It wasn't as good as The Martian, and it certainly wasn't as good as 2001.
Hi. This is Alex doing a little editor's note here because Garrett did end up watching First Man shortly after this podcast came out, and he liked it as much as The Martian. You can hear more about that on our upcoming Best of 2018 podcast, but I just want to let everybody know that I won. I won this argument. It was me. And now you can hear the rest of the argument, but I won. I just want that to be known. Garrett's a loser. He doesn't even listen to this. When I'm done editing it, he told me to my face that he doesn't even listen to them. What a bitch. Anyway, back to the podcast.
Well, yeah, you just have a weird ass bias towards 2001 where it's like literally if a movie's set in space, it's automatically terrible.
Well, I've been around a little bit longer than you have. And
2001 is perfect. Everything else is trash.
I just told you that I like The Martian.
Utter garbage.
But the funny thing is, I like The Martian for the exact same reasons people hate The Martian.
Which is what?
They were always saying that Matt Damon was like way too cocky and he acted like there was never any issues with anything and like he would just be able to overcome obstacles without any problem. I'm like, yeah,
Right.
he's a fucking astronaut and a scientist.
They didn't read the book, I guess.
Right.
They toned the fuck down out of the book, though.
Yeah.
He has like, did you read the book?
I've read some of it. I didn't actually.
Because he has like 20 times the problems in the book
Right.
that he does in the movie.
Right.
Like at some point, he flips the entire truck over. When he's trying to drive to like the getaway spot, the rocket. He flips it all over and he has to like get out and find a way to propel it without running out of oxygen.
Yeah, and it's like I understand like the storm would not be as bad as what they portrayed it to be.
Yeah.
So, but they needed a hook. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, I was in a D&D group I was playing in, and a couple of the guys had read the book, and they're like, "You have to read this book because it's great, and they're gonna have a movie coming out for it." And then, like, I started reading the book, I'm like, fuck, I'll go watch the movie.
I crushed the book in like 3 days, and then the movie came out 2 months later, and I was like, I didn't like that because they cut out a bunch of stuff in the book. And I saw it again, and I was like, it's a good movie. It's real good.
It is. It's really entertaining.
It's almost a perfect entertaining movie, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was actually nice for Ridley Scott to do something that wasn't his.
Good.
Oh wow.
Ridley Scott. We should do a Ridley Scott film so I can bash him.
Yeah, but I would only want to do like one of his good films.
Yeah, we'll do a good film, dipshit. But we'll talk about how many bad ones he has.
All right.
Because he has a lot. He's a very inconsistent director.
Really off the rails here.
Yep. So, how do I get back on track here? So one of the things I mentioned is that Yorgos is really known, I guess, for his script and his dialogue. Thoughts?
I agree. He is known for that.
What do you think about it? Because it's very odd and peculiar. It's delivered without a lot of emotion.
The thing is, yeah, it's delivered very straightforward, very awkwardly. He doesn't seem to ask his
he does not ask his cast to do it, which is very
weird. That too, but also he doesn't seem to ask his cast to change their normal accents.
Right.
So Colin Farrell talks like an Irishman.
Yeah.
And then Rachel Weisz is British.
Yeah.
And John C. Reilly is like, what is
American.
He from Texas or something? Yeah. And it's just
Léa Seydoux is French.
Right. And so it's like there's all of these like, and that's one of the things that makes it difficult to know where to place it time-wise. Because everyone talks differently.
It helps to displace it, really.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think really builds on that world. And Sacred Deer was the same kind of way.
Exactly.
Although, did Nicole Kidman have an Australian accent in that?
She did have a little bit of one. I don't know if it's like as bad as what it used to be.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, but it's an interesting way to build the world to kind of have. We already talked about the outside of time, but to have all of the different people from different places of the world just kind of be wherever they are. Who knows?
And then have Paddington Bear talking in it too.
Good old Q.
And it's cool to see Rachel and Olivia Colman in this together.
Mm-hmm. Because they're
even though they don't share a screen.
Because they fuck in The Favorite. I mean,
wow.
I know that much. I know somebody fucks in The Favorite. There's it all.
Spoiler. I know you just want to see Olivia Colman naked. That's fine. You can tell everybody.
Who don't like nothing like a little bit of girl on girl? That was Olivia Colman in Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, I got it. No, I figured you were talking about Mulholland Drive.
Well, that was last week, fuckhead.
What about his co-writer?
Yep, I love his co-writer. I wouldn't doubt that he has a big part in a lot of this because he wrote every single film along with Yorgos.
Except for The Favorite.
Yeah, but Yorgos didn't even write The Favorite.
I know.
Fuckhead.
That's why I actually think
along with him.
I think The Favorite has a much more powerful script.
Oh yeah.
Because then Yorgos can concentrate strictly on directing. But anyway,
right.
That's neither here nor there. I'm not saying that these films are weak by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
But it's like a great deal of the runtime. You're trying to figure out the world that Yorgos has created, both in this and Killing of a Sacred Deer. Whereas you are already aware of the world in The Favorite.
Right.
And so everything is strictly character driven and relationships and verbal barbs and who is being what and what are their actual motivations and everything. And so it was like, to me, that is actually has way more depth and way more structure because you don't have to worry about any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So he's actually able to like focus in on more, whereas a lot of this is more like symbolic or representational or other things. So it's like they're just two different types of ways of telling the story, and he does good at both of them. But it's just interesting that you can definitely tell there's a different flavor to the speech patterns.
But yeah, so with the speech pattern then in this and in Sacred Deer more so, or both of them more so than The Favorite, like a lot of people find it off-putting and or distracting or hard to follow or stupid. Do you?
Oh no, not at all. In fact, I find this was more literary.
Okay.
So it's like I actually come from a background of like reading an extensive amount of books, and it's like old Hollywood. You know, if you go and watch a Marx Brothers movie, they are talking a mile a minute, and there are so many references and inside jokes, and everything's like delivered deadpan, and you really have to pay attention to not just the fact that they are saying something, but what they're saying and what they're referencing. It's kind of the same thing with like Mystery Science Theater. You have to pay attention to the movie itself, and then the commentary they're making on the movie, and then the references they're making on the commentary to the movie.
Right.
And I love that. It gives my brain something to do.
Yeah.
You know, so I think if that's probably why like a Transformers crowd or an Avatar crowd might not necessarily find this as interesting. But it's pure cinema to me.
I would agree. It's one of those films that's really stretches and shows what this medium can do and what this kind of stories it can tell in a different way that they can tell them. It's just incredibly unique.
It is. And I was thinking, even though it's not really similar, but there are things in it. You and I watched Swiss Army Man.
Mm-hmm.
And the uniqueness of what was going on and how it basically kind of creates its own world. It's like similar in that way where there really aren't very many things like this type of story out there.
Right. Absurdist almost, right?
Oh, definitely.
There isn't a lot of that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, because there are very few times, and I guess we can get into spoilers, that you could actually laugh at someone kicking a dog to death.
Yeah. Or more so in the case of me, I had to pause the movie because I was laughing so hard at him kicking the little girl.
Right.
So I had to pause it because I was dying.
You can have a limp just like your dad?
Yep.
Or the lady that jumps out of the 1-story window, but she just kind of like breaks her neck and is bleeding out, so she's just screaming.
Yeah. See,
And
that
then
part actually kind of horrified me. I wasn't even laughing there. I was like, Jesus.
to me, that was so Lynchian to
Right.
have that. And then the two of, the man and the woman are like talking with each other, almost flirting. And he's like, I know, I hope she suffers for a long time.
Yeah.
I take it back. And then he's like, but I hope she stops screaming because I just had a long day at golf and I need to like rest for a while.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I'm sorry, with all the screaming, I can't hear you. We should talk later when it's quiet.
Yeah. And I guess we can get into that too, with that dynamic with those two characters, because that's fucking hilarious. The way that they meet for the first time. I know you were laughing at that. Or not me, but the way that they kind of decide that they're going to get together.
Mm-hmm.
When she chokes to death almost in the pool.
Yeah, it's like she was testing him to see if he cared. And that's the thing that I think is a really interesting part. I feel like I'm walking all over you, by the way.
No,
You just
I don't
have
give
to
a shit.
smack me down. Like in this world, in order to find your soulmate, you both have to have a distinctive characteristic in common.
Right.
So one guy has a limp, so he's looking for other people with limps.
Right.
Or the one girl has a nosebleed, so she's looking for other people that have nosebleeds.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that is
Colin Farrell has a mustache, so he's looking for a mustachioed woman.
right. Well, that was another funny thing when she's like, "Are you heterosexual or homosexual?"
Yeah. Yeah. And he has to actually think about it. I did have the one homosexual encounter in high school.
And then he like asks if it's okay, what about bi? And they're like, well, after what, last year or whatever, they
Yeah.
decided to do that. Well, and then it's like, as you get to know the story, like if you had the option of choosing either a male or a female, it would be much easier to like get out and not be turned into an animal.
Right.
So it's like taking that ability away is like, there's like a lot of interesting world building going on.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just kind of like read into it whatever you want. Maybe the director didn't mean anything by it, maybe he did. So it's interesting. The one lady that he eventually starts Colin Farrell eventually starts dating.
Super into
Her
death.
yeah, she like just had. They say like she has no feelings or she has no heart, and so it's like he has to be uncaring, but he can only play that for so long because that's not who he really is. Well, and they have the maid come in. What is it every day?
Yeah.
And give him a lap dance.
Yeah.
Because they it's easier to go on dates without having like a fresh perspective and not worrying about all that. And then John C. Reilly gets caught masturbating, so they put his hand in a toaster.
Yeah. Jesus. How burnt up would your hand be if you were there?
I mean, it's only 45 days
to the bone. Yeah.
I think I could
That's
make
90
it.
times.
I know, but the girl's coming in there already. It's like I don't need a lap dance and then jerk off later on.
Oh, it's funny when she stops and then Colin Farrell just gets up and goes, please, just a little bit longer. I don't know. Just small little lines like that made me crack up.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Or I guess like we were talking about some of the characters, we were saying Paddington Bear, but Ben Wishaw's character.
Mm-hmm.
And how we never find out what his animal would be.
That's right, because he never said.
Yeah. Probably some like asshole animal. Now, is he a jerk or did he beat the system? That's the real question.
I mean, so I know guys who basically would lie to just get with women, period.
Right.
Regardless, it's like they would either act like they were somebody that they weren't, or that they were interested in things that they weren't. So it makes me wonder if
nosebleeds.
Yeah, so it's like he was doing whatever he could to get with her, and they were obviously having problems because we were told through dialogue that first you try to work it out between yourself, and then if you can't fix the problem amongst yourselves, you go to the head office and the lady will work with you, and then like last resort, basically they'll give you kids. And so it's like one day later, and they both have a daughter.
Yeah. Colin Farrell kicks her in the fucking shin.
Right. So, it's just it's hilarious that the movie is able to like tell you these things about the characters without having to actually show you all the things that were happening. And then later in the movie, we see them having dinner on the yacht. And
they're all wearing the same clothes.
they're all wearing the same clothes, and they're
Those are
having
weird.
the meal, but Colin Farrell wants to give away the secret that the nosebleeds aren't real.
Right.
So that, okay, this thing that you thought you were compatible with is that he actually was lying to you. And then he leaves the boat, and we see the last image is her like holding the knife, the dinner knife, just in her
Right.
hand, looking at him. So it's
Right.
like there's no like definitive end to that relationship, but like now that she knows, is anything gonna happen? Are they gonna overlook it?
Was she gonna kill him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it
So
fucking
I think that's
hilarious?
mm-hmm.
Or what was your reaction when he bashes his face off the table?
Yeah. I mean, no, it definitely was funny.
Did it
I mean,
catch you off
because
guard? Because I was like,
well,
holy shit.
when he said the nosebleed thing, at the pool, I'm like, you didn't have that before, and I could like tell where they were going with it.
Mm-hmm.
So like showing him doing it almost could have been a little bit of a misstep of like, yeah, we got it. But I think he was just
I think it was good
delivering.
in showing that because he smashes his face on the table like once or twice, but he has no emotion when he does it.
Yes.
I think that's what guided it. I think from a misstep to being just a character trait.
Well,
Because he
yeah,
doesn't smash his face and then go like, fuck, man, I hate doing this, but I gotta get laid. It's like he has
right.
zero emotion when he does it.
And so I think it is,
Sociopathic almost.
yeah, it's revelatory to the actual character, and the fact that what his goals aren't necessarily to have someone to be with, but his goal is to not be turned into an animal.
Yeah, and of course this is Ben Wishaw's character, but
Yeah.
I feel like we haven't talked. But
Well, I think it's
um,
hilarious because he is turned into a animal in real life as Paddington,
right, yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what he's known for.
yeah.
And I don't remember when Paddington came out.
2014.
So that was the year before The Lobster.
Yeah,
So I'm wondering if some of this was an actual play on the characterization.
could have been, could have been. He
It,
tells a
it could
story
have been
too.
like an inside joke.
That yeah, I wouldn't doubt it honestly. Maybe he would have been a bear. He should have said a bear.
Yeah, because didn't
Um,
he specifically said, like, because a lobster can be easily like picked up and then put into a pot and eaten. They're gonna be
yeah,
eating the little meat out of his
yeah. So I
claws.
want to be a bear because he's big and strong and nobody will fuck with him.
Yeah, I
Or
was
he
trying
wears
to
a cute
remember
little
what
raincoat that
John
spreads
C.
joy.
Reilly.
A
I was trying
parrot.
to remember. That's right.
You just fart.
No, it was my chair.
I know. And then, but I'm curious too if this Ben Wishaw's character, if maybe he's not lying and doing all this stuff because he's an asshole or just wants to like get with the girl or whatever. Maybe he's just terrified of turning into an animal
Could be.
and he's willing to do whatever because he tells that story about his mom and when he goes to the zoo and just sees a bunch of the wolves and he has no idea which one is her. So maybe he's scared of just like losing himself, losing his identity. Who knows? I think that's marked of an effective character.
Right. And it's interesting too that John C. Reilly, I don't know if we mentioned this, has a lisp.
Right.
So he's going to be one of the animals who talks, but
Yes.
the lisp will carry over so he won't talk correctly. What about the opening of the movie? I don't think we talked about that either.
Ollie wants a cracker. Sorry,
The
that
opening
was my
of
parrot with a lisp.
That's fantastic. I loved it.
Was
I
it?
wish I was a pirate so that I could have a parrot with a lisp. The very opening of the movie is a woman driving in a car,
Mm-hmm.
and it's raining,
Yeah.
and she pulls off to the side of the road and walks into a field and shoots a donkey dead like multiple times, and then gets back
Yeah.
in the car.
Yeah.
So more than likely, that must have been like her boyfriend or her
That's
husband.
what I
or
figured
whatever.
it was an X or something.
Yeah, and she wanted to get rid of him,
Or
and
it
she knew which one
absolutely
it was.
wasn't. Because there's no way to tell.
Right.
But she cathartically just shot a donkey to death.
But it's like that's such an interesting way to start a movie.
Yeah. I would agree with you. But why a lobster?
And I thought it was interesting his explanation for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The
They live to be
virility
over
and the
100
long
years.
life. Yeah.
That should
And
be
they're
enough
able
time
to
to find a mate, basically.
Yeah, and they can procreate through that entire lifetime.
Mm-hmm. And he's an
And he
excellent
said
swimmer.
he's an excellent swimmer, and he said they have blue blood.
We technically have blue blood until it's oxidized.
Wow.
Science!
You're blinded by it.
And another character we didn't talk about either is Rachel Weisz's character.
Mm-hmm. Rabbit.
Is that what her name is?
No. Well,
I
that's the
didn't catch her
thing.
name.
Actually, only the three main guys have an actual name. I think.
Really?
There's
Does she not
David,
have a name?
John, and Robert, right? Because everyone
Right.
else is just she's
Nosebleed woman and
Rachel is short-sighted woman. Then there's loner leader, the maid, nosebleed woman, hotel manager, biscuit woman,
interesting.
heartless woman. Yeah, so it's literally only the three guys.
What do you think that means? There's certainly
I
meaning behind that.
it's probably because it is told from the point of view of the three men. It's told from a male perspective.
Right.
So he's probably saying that what it is that's being said is limited from that point of view, and that maybe in their culture or in our culture, women are looked at as objects, and they're only looked at it as like their one defining feature that they're
Yeah,
hoping to be
okay.
paired with.
Right.
You
I
know,
love how
and so
all their defining features are like bad things too.
exactly.
And some of the ones with bad things end up in relationships, while like the one whose defining feature is excellent hair doesn't, and is turned into an animal.
Right.
Turned into a horse with excellent hair. Little Sebastian.
I miss him in the strongest fashion.
It was basically Little Sebastian.
Well, it was a Shetland pony, yeah.
But what'd you think of the short-sighted woman and David's relationship?
They oddly went together really well.
Mm-hmm.
They actually had a lot of charisma, especially considering she didn't come into the movie until like 50 minutes in.
Yeah, or longer. I think it's like 110, 120.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Not 120, but definitely 110. He doesn't get out there till an hour in. And then he doesn't meet her for like 10 minutes after that. So, anyway, but I'd agree. They have a lot of charisma. Unlike somebody.
So there you go. Me? Wait a minute.
Hey now.
And that's one of the things I think Yorgos does a fantastic job with casting.
Yep.
Because in all of his films, like the characters are really strong and work well or work well against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's interesting when you have a movie with someone like Colin Farrell who has been in a ton of movies, or Nicole Kidman who's been in a ton of movies, and then the really weird kid that hasn't hardly been in anything like outacts them. And I'm talking about from Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Yeah, which kid? The boy?
The weird guy that wants to be his son.
Oh, yeah. The guy from Dunkirk.
Yeah, but I don't remember what his name is, because I think that all I've seen him in is Sacred Deer.
Is it Barry something? Or is that his character in Sacred Deer?
Yes, that seems like that's his character.
Whatever.
No, I guess Barry is his name.
What's his name?
Barry Keoghan?
Oh, yeah.
Keoghan. I don't know exactly how you pronounce that.
Who cares? This isn't the Sacred
Wow.
Deer podcast. Or the Dunkirk podcast.
Smack. I like how they developed a language between themselves that only they knew.
Yeah.
So that was the interesting thing, is there are so many things maybe they don't have in common. Like she doesn't speak German, but he does. Or she really likes rabbits, but he has never seen eating them. Even though they don't have that, like they were able to develop a language and they walk together and they apparently enjoy the same type of music together, but like none of that is ever mentioned as them having something in common.
It was very natural, almost, way they built the relationship.
Right. Which makes the ending stand out that much more.
And we'll get to that in just a sec.
Sure. Boy.
Interesting with the characters, because it made me think about it when we're talking about the couple on the boat. We never really get a definitive end for anybody.
Right.
John C. Reilly's left pretty much naked in the woods. Lea
Right,
Seydoux is tied up.
And we find out he only gets knocked out by those
Right.
darts.
Olivia Colman is just like tied up.
Right, and she finds out what her husband thinks of her.
Yeah. So that was a good way too of breaking like the flaws in the system kind of thing.
And I thought that the leader was doing the same thing with Rachel's eyesight.
What do you mean?
I thought it was a fake thing that would she'd get her eyesight back after a few days.
Right.
Just to test to see whether or not Colin actually liked her for who she was, or just because she was short-sighted like he was.
What interesting would it have been if they did that and then he stabbed his eyes out and then her sight came back?
That's how I thought it was going to happen, because when the waiter walks by the table, she looks at him.
I know.
And then she looks out the window, which a totally blind person would not do.
Well, then maybe she did get her sight back. Just took a little while longer.
But or did she just not tell him? And she wanted to see if he would prove to her?
That could be it too, because a big theme in this movie I find is that relationships are built on lies.